Welcome to Southeast News on Signature TV. Thank you for watching. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Headlines. ANSEC releases list of qualified candidates for local government election. Anambra State government to shut down unaccredited schools. When we come back, you'll hear more of these stories. The schools are set to resume September 17 for primary and secondary schools. The Anambra State government has cautioned about 2,000 schools that are operating without accreditation. State government has vowed to shut down any of these institutions if they fail to secure the necessary approvals and accreditation. Commissioner for Information Paul Mosu revealed on Thursday that these schools were identified as operating illegally across the state, 21 local government areas, following a recent evaluation of accredited schools. He explained that schools without proper accreditation and approval are not meeting the standards set by the government through the Ministry of Education, which could negatively affect students' education. The government of Anambra is concerned that students and pupils, irrespective of their location in Anambra State, deserve the best learning environment, teachers, and curriculum. State government has directed the affected schools to immediately seek accreditation and registration with the Anambra State Ministry of Education before school resumption or risk closure and other severe sanctions. He also mentioned that the list of accredited schools will be shared with local government education departments via the Transition Committee Chairman for easier access. The final list of qualified candidates for the local government elections has been published by the Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission ANSEC ahead of September 28th Local Government Council Chairman and Ward Councillors election. The ANSEC Chairperson, Mrs. Genevieve Osakwe, who posted the list at the Commission's headquarters in Oka, has urged the candidates to begin their campaigns. She further stressed that the list is available for public viewing and promised Anambra residents that the election will be conducted in a free, fair, and credible manner. For a discussion aimed at preventing a breakdown of law and order. Recall that Signature TV had reported that some youths were seen making burn fires at strategic points in ENUGU, as well as obstructing vehicles from passing through the community. Though tension appeared to have died down, feelers from the two communities still speak of heightened apprehension and low business activity due to fears of attacks which would escalate into a full-scale communal crisis. Command, however, assured of increased security in the two communities as well as ongoing investigations that have yielded positive results, which the command promised to disclose in due course. The senator representing Anambra's Central Senatorial District, Victor Ume, says the National Assembly was working hand in gloves with the executive arm of government to ensure that the challenges faced by Nigeria are given prompt attention and resolved immediately. Ume stated this while contributing on Signature's morning show, a flagship program on Signature TV.
We've been rising up to the occasion from time to time. In security, we have held a number of sessions with security chiefs, inviting them to appear before the Senate, either in a joint closed-door session or through oversight functions. When killings were on the rise in Nigeria, the first place to hear the voices of anguish has always been the Senate. And when we do this work, we go into finding ways to support the armed forces to be able to do their work effectively. We do that through approval of monies they need to be able to address these problems, holistically. Because every day you come to the Senate, there must be a point of order from one senator or the other, raising issues of national concern, matters of urgent national importance, and through that means they report very, very grave situations in their constituencies. the way people have been killed, the way people have been displaced, the way people have been maimed. So the first place you get this report to land has always been the Senate. And on the economy side, we've been very aggressive in taking those who manage the economy. You know, we invite them, the governor of the central bank, the minister for finance, and coordinating minister of the economy. We deal with them through the various committees of the Senate.
The senator highlighted the need for synergy between the legislative and executive arms of government in addressing the socio-economic challenges facing the nation.
The President of Nigeria has brought to the Senate, seeking its approval, that the Senate ought to approve that. We have unreasonably withheld approval. We've approved all the appointments he has been bringing, even in some cases when people may have dissenting views in terms of balancing of these appointments. We always said, let him have those he needs to be able to govern well. You know, even his expectation, these are the people he finds that will help him drive the economy, drive the Nigeria, and according to his own vision, for us to have a prosperous nation. Have them. Then people will say, oh, we are rubber stamp. The Central Bank of Nigeria will bring matters before the Senate for consideration and approval. We approve. Go and drive those their visions and all that, so that we do not blame the National Assembly.
Sympathizing with Nigerians over the worsening hardship in the country, attributed the situation to weak economic policies of past administrations.
Withdrawal of petroleum subsidy has been on. It didn't start in this 10th Senate. I was in the 8th Senate, and I know that between 2018 and 2019, if you were following the events at the Senate, you will always see me very vocally challenging some of these things going on. When the President Buhari brought a request for approval of promissory notes with which to pay debts that are accrued through the subsidy program, I was one of those who condemned the exercise, and I reasoned, not that the debts would not be paid, because there are debts Nigerian government is already owing, and the government was seeking for ways of liquidating the debts, and they decided to come by way of promissory notes that will have a long-term tenure, you know. And I said at that time, I'm on record, both on television and everywhere, I said, we are not doing the right thing. If we continue to import petroleum products in the midst of the crude which God has given to this country, and we have had 4 refineries established in this country in the past years, and suddenly the 4 refineries were shut. If we don't do anything to reactivate those refineries, if we don't do anything to even attempt to build new refineries, that we are postponing the doomsday. The issue of withdrawal of petroleum subsidy has been on. It didn't start in this 10th Senate. I was in the 8th Senate, and I know that between 2018 and 2019,
That's the news for now on Southeast News. When we come back, we'll start with our conversations. Stay with us.
Let us go back to our roots. This is our economy. We have our fuel. We have the natural resources. Yes. Why should I buy something I have at my backyard and paying higher than those who doesn't even have it in their own country? Can't you see? It's very, very alarming. So government should do something. I beg. Tell the government, if you know any of those people, that we are dying.
The price of fuel before, by the time Buhari was there, it was 120 naira. This thing is something that we have in our getting in our country. I see no reason why we should not maybe have something like this. And somebody outside the country is maybe gaining it more than the people that the owners. So it's supposed to be 120 naira.
Normally, we are the producing of fuel, and in Nigeria, we all expected that the price should come down to before, like 150, 200. So that somebody that is going to work can be able to pay 200 naira, 50 naira, or 150 to go to work, respectively. If you bring it out like that way, it will be okay.
Let them go back to 200 when Jonathan was there. What nonsense is that? The fuel that we doesn't import fuel is in our country here.
At least the normal price of the fuel is supposed to let it go down to the price of Buhari regime.
That price will be 500.
Welcome back. With the increase in the rate of crime in the country, with the downturn of the economy, one issue that pops up now and then is parental upbringing. What is it that we are missing? Why do we have more people who are easily lured into crime? Why can't we have more people that deter others from committing crimes? Is it the family that's the problem? Or is it that we have families that have decided that they will take to crime because the economy is bad, so to speak? But even in the midst of all these, we had a situation where within this week, we had a young man who was a youth corps member in Abia State who went about turning things around, who called 150 people and gave them a second chance as part of his CDS project. So there are still some good stories, but let's hold that for now. With me in the studio is Gift Francis. I know you want to add to that, Gift Francis, but Gift, you're welcome to
Thank you.
Southeast News.
Thank you so much.
I still keep wondering why it's so easy for some youths to do drugs and some youths to take to crime, when in the Southeast you have a large percentage of the populace who say they are Christians, which should automatically give a background of moral uprightness in terms of upbringing. Then you also have another group that each time when you talk about moral upbringing, they will tell you the traditional ways are better. Because in the olden days, when you stand to speak the truth, you will pull off your shoes or whatever, stand on the bare ground. And if you talk falsehood, the gods of the land will deal with you. So either as a Christian or as a traditionalist, righteous upbringing was a given. So why are we having a turnaround now?
Okay, I think I will start with the parents. Yes, Christianity, we know it is a religion. Yeah, it's a religion, but when you talk about lifestyle now, that is where so many people miss it. Globally, Christianity is regarded just as a religion, like a religious name, just like we have Islam, Judaism, all those religious sects in the world. So, but now when you talk about Christianity, just like you said, in the Southeast, it should be where we'll be able to see good morals amongst our youths. The problem is that so many of us missed it, even parents. I want to believe that, like, as a Christian, you know, apart from Christianity, there are different forms of parenting styles that so many Christian parents, they've like kept it by the side. You know, they just abandoned it to follow what I call their own personal style, or the way they perceive things, yeah, like in their own eyes. Are we together? So another thing is, when it comes to, I've said about parenting style and understanding with Christianity, what Christianity is all about. So I said something that Christianity has to do with lifestyle, a personal decision. Do you understand? So in this case now, we find out that many people are Christians, but they've not really encountered the person, that Christ that is in that name, Christian. Do you understand? And it affects, it reflects on the lives of our children. Reason, you can see some parents that are not even involved. They are Christians, they are so busy in terms of business, service in the church, that they barely have time for their children. I was once a victim, when my son was growing up, you know. So, but till one of the days, in fact, it was God that called my attention. Look at where you are lacking in the life of this child. I'm a Christian. I'm raising the boy in a Christian way, but there are certain things that has to do with communication, personal relationship with the children, that we parents will lag behind in that area. You understand? So in that case now, you're a parent. You assume that you're a Christian, you are already a Christian, and because you're a Christian, you expect the child to adopt those morals that you are teaching him or her. But in other words, there are better ways of communicating that lifestyle to children. That is where Christians are missing it. You understand?
So what are these better ways?
Yes. One, just like I mentioned something about parenting styles. You understand? There's what we call authoritative parenting, and there's an authoritarian parenting as well. And then we have permissive, and then we have uninvolved parenting. These are all forms of parenting. You get? So now, an authoritarian parent will always state clearly stated rules, like this is how this should be, this is how you must live your life and everything. Forgetting that these children, they are human beings that are they are so susceptible to influences in their environment. Peers, they are highly exposed to outside influences, outside the influence of the family. So in order to get these children, it's not just about stating roles. All these forms of parenting, it has effect on the child. In this case, you are like, some people will say, I'm a kinko, something like that. Like, you are a military person. This is how things should be in this house. Nobody should do this. You shouldn't stay out by this time. You shouldn't go out by this time. You understand where I'm coming from? Without relating with the child to understand actually what is going on in the mind of that child, what is happening in his world outside the family. This is one area. So there is a gap between the children and the parents. All you have, as a parent, you have already placed expectation on the child, which the child might not be meeting. And in such cases, like for some parents, which ends up in discipline. They will just discipline or punish the child. And I've come to understand, I've come to realize that sometimes spanking a child or beating a child doesn't really inculcate the desired moral. You as a Christian want that. That's why you see some of these Christian boys and girls. Once they reach certain age, they just deviate completely. They choose their own way. They choose their own pattern because the parents really didn't play certain roles that they were supposed to play in the life of that child. So the basic thing is, even as a Christian, understand the workings, like the mindset of that child. You know, children are different. There's a child, when you shout at the child can easily stop or change or adopt. There are some child that shouting doesn't work on. It needs petting, it needs pampering, you understand. So when you understand the child, like my own son, I remember one of when he was growing up, sometimes I will shout. I will first of all talk to him. Okay, this is how we do this. And I discovered that he's the type, you will keep repeating a particular thing months, years. So I now adopted a style. Sometimes I won't just shout. I will just call him and sit him down. I will engage him in discussion, like as in we are talking friend to friend, like mother to child, so that he will become free with me. So I discovered that that method started working much more than using cane, shouting on the child. So these days, I noticed that everything he's doing, he's just being conscious of doing something to make mommy happy. Without talking. Maybe before I come out, mommy, I've already done this. Or mommy, this person said this to me. Like, I saw him being free to discuss what happens outside there with me. Some of the things that naturally he might not want to open up. Like, I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. So basically, it's like these things that are happening in our society. One, it depends on the type of parenting style a parent is adopting, apart from being a Christian. So many of us, like I remember in my own case, when I was growing up, my mom, she's a very good Christian, but she was never there for us. She was never there for me. She's a businesswoman. So we know that 5 o'clock in the morning, mommy goes to shop. 10 p.m. in the night, mommy is back. She's a Christian.
So you have a field day?
Yeah. So in other words, like, I can live my life, do everything I want to do before she comes back. But the only thing I normally advise parents is make sure that you plant that seed. Once you plant that seed will always remain. You know, no matter where the child, I'm talking from my own experience, no matter where the child, the community, the group, the place the child finds him or herself, as long as that seed has been planted there, the seed will sustain the child. One day it will germinate.
Now, when you have a situation whereby the parenting style didn't really work the way you anticipated it, what do you think will happen? How do you bring back this child if he has gone astray, maybe taken to drugs or taken to crime? How do you bring him back?
Okay. I normally like using myself as an example, even like anytime I have opportunity to teach them, because I know that I handle them, young adults. Yes, so anytime I have opportunity of talking with parents, I've come to realize that prayer works. I remember in my own case, like my child, there was a time, just like I told you, I was engaging him, like I shouted, adopted every style, you know. So when I engaged him, you know, one of the days, I clearly had the Spirit of God telling me, always lay your hands to pray for this child. You know, initially I thought it was a joke. I wasn't serious about it. So I saw him misbehaving. That word came back again. Always lay your hands on him and always use the word, the Bible, to admonish this child. These two things, I adopted it. And the moment I adopted it, I began to see change. Like I came to understand, I realized that the word of God, using the word to admonish a child, has more effect. It's more effective than just sitting a child down to like rebuke a child, to beat the child. Do you get where I'm coming from? So in this case now, like I know that most of us, just like you said when we started, that in Christendom, it's as if that's where the worst is happening. Why? Because we have missed it. I'm using myself as an example. I wasn't used to sitting him down to start teaching him the word. But I know that I was being pressed in my spirit. Start doing this, start doing this. And the moment I started doing these two things, I saw a drastic change. So for a child that has gone far, just like you said, you should understand that, you know, in my dialect in Igbo, there's an adage that says that there's something, when you see somebody dancing, no, the person, something is playing music.
When you see somebody dancing,
yes,
someone that's beating the drum at the background.
Thank you, at the background. Understand what is beating the drum at the background for that child. And
but now I said somebody was doing drug or into crime. So maybe drugs led him into crime or crime led him into drugs. How can parents bring back such youth?
Okay.
I know that there are some organizations established,
yes,
but I also do know that parental care can make that change happen.
Yeah, and also, yes, just like you said, parental care, just like I gave instances of giving that child time and prayers, basically, they work. And then secondly, we have facilities, some rehab, I don't know about here in Nigeria, but I know that.
Yeah, rehab.
Yes, some rehab facilities where some
NDLA has rehab facilities,
yes,
and some other organizations too.
Yes, so I also know that church can equally help. You understand? Yes, church. I have one of the young boys that got engaged with this drug stuff. You know, he became a hardcore drug addict. You know, so in that case, while I was talking with the mother, like, they thought that the best solution was to send the child abroad. You know, so these are like, I'm just giving at this instance to show that sometimes, like, it depends on the approach the parents adopt. You understand? Yeah. Firstly,
I recall you talking about different parenting styles.
Yes. So in that case, you're sending the child abroad. Now, are you sending the child abroad that the help that child needs is there? Or if that child, that's why you see some of them getting into drug pushing, like real drug business outside. So in other words, just like I said, adopting a different approach, best approach for that child. There's no child that doesn't have, there's no child, as long as that child is alive, that is hopeless. There's hope in every situation. So firstly, changing approach, and secondly, you can seek help from counselors. There are people that can do better than you, you know. Then seeking help from some of the rehab facilities, just like we said, and some religious organizations like churches, and then prayers as well. I think with these things, it can really help in rescuing a child that has really been taken.
Thank you very much, Gift Francis. But before you go, you've told us, you mentioned about 4 methods of parenting, but we only started with one, and then you just mention them and explain them so that people will understand that there are different methods, one goal, how to make the child the best.
Okay. All right. I said initially authoritarian. Yes. And I mentioned authoritative as well, and permissive, and also the last one is uninvolved parents. Now, I said something about an authoritative parent. So in this case, an authoritative parent, like in that family, there are stated rules, but there are levels of permission. You understand? It's not as thick as that of an authoritative, that of an authoritarian. So in an authoritarian family, like, it's like a military house where you don't go against rules. You don't even make that mistake, because a mistake attracts heavy discipline. And discipline there is seen as punishment, not as a means of supporting or correcting the child in an authoritarian family. So in an authoritative family, yes, there's no room for that level of friendliness. You understand? there are expectations. The child already understands the expectations, what he or she is expected to do from the parents to avoid punishment or to avoid the wrath of the parents. You understand? Then in permissive parenting style, this is a situation where a level of freedom is given to the child. The parent gives the child a level of freedom. The child is, that's why you see some of them, mommy, I want to eat cheese. I want to eat burger. Like the child makes demands because he or she is free with the parents. You understand? And in this case, there is a level of confidence that is built in the child. The child is free. You know, the child can relate. The child, like, it builds this socialistic, like, lifestyle in the child, because the child sees the parents as a friend and they can communicate with the parents. You understand? So that's permissive parenting style. And one of the effects of this, just like I said, that it makes the child sociable. He or she can socialize and can adapt anywhere. You understand? But sometimes there are excesses, because the children can become over demanding. They can become selfish, self-centered, not understanding the situations like of other children or what is actually happening out there. Then the last one is the uninvolved parenting style, where the parents are not really involved. The children are left to, like, build themselves, teach themselves, grow up themselves, but the parents will be supplying the basic needs. They will pay your school fees, they pay the child's school fees, they make sure they are sheltered, there's shelter and everything the child needs. But when it comes to communicating morals, communicating skills, like playing the role of a parent, they are not really there. And in such case, the child grows up as an independent being. And in that case, the outside world influences the child.
Thank you very much, Gift. I need to say thank you very much for coming on. And I want to trust and believe that I have learned something in terms of parenting. I want to believe that opportunities are given to children to grow to become better adults than their parents, because nobody wants their child to be worse than they are. Yeah. So thank you for coming on to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. So please, as a parent, always use the word of God. That's my final word. And make sure you introduce your child to Christ. At least let the child know who this person of Jesus is. That's the basic thing. If every parent, in fact, the most important gift every parent should give to his or her child. At the end of the day, it speaks. I'm a living testimony. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you too. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're taking a break now. When we come back, we'll go to Anambra, where NSEC has released a list of candidates for various political parties. But one party is saying they need to go to court. Find out.
Let us go back to our roots. This is our economy. We have our fuel. We have the natural resources. Yes. Why should I buy something I have at my backyard and paying higher than those who doesn't even have it in their own country? Can't you see? It's very, very alarming. So government should do something about it. Tell the government, if you know any of those people, that we are dying.
The price of fuel before, by the time Buhari was there, it was 120 naira. This thing is something that we have getting in our country. I see no reason why we should not maybe have something like this. And somebody outside the country is maybe gaining it more than the people that are the owners. So it's supposed to be 120 naira.
Normally, we are the producing of fuel. And in Nigeria, we all expected that the price should come down to before, like 150, 200. So that somebody that is going to work can be able to pay 200 naira, 50 naira, or 150 to go to work, respectively. If you bring it out like that way, it will be okay.
Let them go back to 200 when Jonathan was there. What nonsense is that? The fuel that we doesn't import fuel. fuel is in our country here.
At least the normal price of the fare is supposed to let it go down to the price of Buhari regime.
That price will be 500.
Of course, I did say that we'll go to Anambra State, where ANSEC has released a list of candidates who are going to stand for election on the 28th day of September. The list shows mainly ABGA with scanty names from other political parties. But Labour Party is saying they are in court and that they do not expect that a party candidate's name should have been on that list. I have me online, not in the studio, unfortunately, the Secretary of Labour Party in Anambra State, John Okolie-Akrika, is a lawyer. Hello, John. Oh.
On the 28th of September 2024. We are going to tell you what the position of the Labour Party is.
Hello, John. Hello, John. Hello, John. John, can you hear me?
Very well.
Okay, if you can hear me, I have introduced you, and I need to know the position of Labour Party concerning the candidates that were released under the names of the list by ANSEC as Labour Party members. That's one. And two, the position of Labour concerning the election. Well,
The position of the Labour Party regarding the general election is very simple. Our position is this, that in view of the lawless nature of the Anambra State Electoral Law 2024 that has been amended twice, the conduct of ANSEC, that is Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission, so far, the Labour Party has no scintilla of interest, no scintilla of regard, no scintilla of confidence in ANSEC to conduct a free, fair, and credible election. Because the pedestal, that is the law, upon which the election will be, is intended to be conducted, is flawed in all ramifications. And Labour Party as a party went to court to challenge some essential sections of the said Anambra State Electoral Law 2024 as variously amended. And we are saying, to that extent, and for that reason, the Labour Party, as a political party, is not, in capital letters, is not participating in the conduct of the election. And so far, it has come to us as a very big surprise that ANSEC is purporting to have the names of some people in some local governments purporting to be candidates nominated by Labour Party. Nothing can be further from truth and reality. I want INEC to be guided, so ANSEC to be guided by their own timetable / schedule of activities. And I want to urge everybody to feel free, go to ANSEC and ask them, please, show us the documents with which political parties, especially Labour Party, purportedly conducted their party primaries. Show us the documents or show us the evidence that Labour Party actually made nominations. We want to know, because electoral business is conducted via documents. Electoral processes are not conducted in the air. If you go through ANSEC timetable and schedule of activities, it is very clear. They said 27th August 2024, submission of political parties register of members. Please, feel free. Let the listeners out there go to ANSEC or go to their websites if they are ready to find out if Labour Party as a party submitted the so-called register as mandated by ANSEC. And again, item 7 in their timetable and schedule of activities says that political parties shall conduct their nomination exercise scheduled for 24th to 27th August 2020. Please, my dear listeners out there and the operators of this relationship, please call ANSEC or go to ANSEC. Demand for evidence to show that Labour Party or even any party at that, including APGA, conducted political party nomination exercise between 24th to 27th August as published by ANSEC. I'm quoting their own timetable. So you can feel free to go and verify. So it is really surprising that ANSEC is the timetable. It's if ANSEC does not have anything to show that political parties submitted their register, that the political parties conducted party primaries, that political parties submitted list of candidates. Yes, ANSEC is proceeding to go and conduct the election. You can see that this is a clear case of people trying to engage in acts of illegality and in acts of utility. See, so please, in the absence of party nominations, in the absence of party primary, which by electoral law are conditional precedent, can INEC can ANSEC in good faith and in good conscience conduct a free, fair, credible, and legal election? The obvious answer is no. So you can see that the decision of Labour Party to boycott that election is predicated on very sound, tenable, and legal grounds.
Hello, John.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you are in court saying that you are not going to be part of the election.
Certainly we are. And I can give you the suit number. The suit is marked, suit number A/265/2024 between Labour Party as the plaintiffs and the one Anambra State House of Assembly, first defendant, Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission, and second defendant. As a matter of fact, the matter came up in court on the 3rd day of September, was adjourned to today. Because of the exigency and peculiar circumstances of electoral matters, which we all know are sui generis, and that time is of the essence. The court decided to hear all during vacation, but unfortunately today, the court didn't sit, and that they have written the Chief Judge of Anambra State to assign the court, to assign the matter to a regular court, so that you can go there to let the public know that the Anambra State electoral law, though I don't want to sound them sub-judicial, that the Anambra State electoral law is a subject of litigation before a court of competent jurisdiction. And also to let people know that notwithstanding the independence of the litigation, ANSEC is not even complying with their own regulations. ANSEC is not even complying with their own enabling legislation. Because if ANSEC had a timetable that stated events and dates of events, and those events never took place, and ANSEC is purporting to proceed to conduct the election, everyone can now see that with the greatest respect and deference to the electoral body, that they are engaging in what I may call an act of, a very dubious physical act that cannot stand the test of legality.
So, can you tell us some of the things you are seeking in that lawsuit? What are some of the things you want in that lawsuit?
Okay, what you are claiming is very clear. I can give a synoptic analysis of what you are saying. Without necessarily discuss the merits of our case, because we all know very well that the matter having been submitted before a court of competent jurisdiction now becomes sub judice. So it will be contemptuous on my own part, to speak, to make a conclusive comment regarding, some aspects of the case. But I can say, look at what we are asking the court to do. I can say, look at our reasons for asking the court to do those things. But I cannot tell you whether we're going to succeed or whether we're going to fail or what the court, but I can give an insight into what we're claiming and why we want the court to make those declarations and orders.
That's what I asked. That's what I asked. Just give us an idea of
our case.
Yes.
Our case in court involves some declaratory reliefs. It also has some injunctive reliefs and also has some mandatory orders. We are asking the court, in terms of declaration, Labour Party is saying that the relevant law, when it comes to issue of procedure, that one is very clear. You don't have to be a lawyer to know that. Section 150 of the Electoral Act is very, very clear.
Okay. So now, why Labour Party waits? I said, now that you are going to wait for when the main issues will begin to take, that's the main parties to the suit, will begin to take their various positions in court. What would Labour Party be doing in the meantime?
What we're doing in the meantime is what we're doing advocacy to sensitize Nigeria, India in particular, and Nigerians as a whole, as to why we are saying, let us go by due process. Let us play the game by the rules. Let us ensure that whatever we do, we must be accountable to the law. Whatever we do must not detract from the demands of legality. That's what we're going to do. And that is exactly part of this program. And I want to thank your session for making our time and finding it worthy to reach out to indigenous of Anambra State, especially Labour Party, to find out what actually is happening. So we want to engage in advocacy to let people know the true position of affairs. Like I said before, we are saying that some sections of Anambra State electoral law, which was made in 2024 June, between 2024 June to August 2024, a total of barely 2 months. That law has suffered 2 amendments. Why? Just accommodate the peculiar circumstances of Africa. This is how done that way. The law has to be for everybody. The law is not meant to take care of, the faith has been involved Africa as a political party. And that's the Labour Party is saying, no, that is not correct. Let the court come in. And our very first relief in court is to say that Section 23 of the Anambra State Electoral Law 2024 as variously amended is unconstitutional, is illegal, because it contravenes some sections of the Electoral Act, specifically Section 28. That is our claim. That Anambra State law says that ANSEC shall give initially they said 50 days. Later they said 30 days. We said no. We said no. That the Electoral Act, Section 24, says we shall give 360 days. So it is not for the court to determine whether the law is in accordance with the Electoral Act and the Constitution, or whether the law will pass the test of due process. But so far, that is our claim in law. That is our claim in court. Our claim is that that law is illegal, that law cannot stand in the face of the provisions of the Electoral Act and the Constitution. It's not left for the court to determine whether Labour Party is right or wrong. That's their position. We also say that the Anambra State House Assembly was wrong when they enacted in their section 24, subsections 4, 11, and 12, trying to use legislative powers to say certain things. We are saying no, you can't do that. And when you want to talk about political party administration, whether PDP or ABGA or Labour Party or SDP, that the Constitution had said that it is only the National Assembly that can make laws. And the section of the court is section 228 of NTF. You can go out there. So I like this question so that people can now find out why Labour Party is going to court. We are saying that the Constitution has said matters of party primary, matters of internal democracy, matters of submission of list of candidates shall be legislated upon by the National Assembly. Anambra State Assembly said no. We want to make law. And in our law, either a state party chairman, either House Assembly, National Assembly, it's really funny, can submit list of candidates. Well, you can't do that. Because the Constitution has said that this particular legislative duty is the exclusive reserve of National Assembly. And to that extent, Anambra cannot legislate. So it is left for the court to determine at the end of the day whether what Labour Party is saying is right or wrong. But that is our case in court. We are also saying that certain aspects of the Anambra State law, like section 25, subsection 1B, is also contrary to the Electoral Act and the Constitution, because the Electoral Act has already made provisions in that regard. And the law is very clear that in a federal system like ours, certain things are left for the National Assembly, for the federal government. Certain things are left for both the National Assembly and the State Assembly. And certain things are exclusively reserved for the State Assembly. And when the National Assembly completely make law, if they completely make laws regulating procedure for conduct of election, it is no longer within the ambit or within the basic competence of the Assembly to now go on to make a law that is in conflict, that is incompatible, that detracts or infracts the provision of either the Constitution or the Electoral Act. The Anambra Assembly is purporting to have done that, and Labour Party is saying no, you can't do that. The Electoral Act has made a provision. Another historic aspect of the law we are contesting is what happens when, in the course of election, there are some issues. The Electoral Act says if in the course of election, especially at the point of collection of results, maybe counting, entering figures in requisite forms, and the announcement of results, because normally that's why the issues. If an issue crops up and the presiding officer, electoral commission cannot continue with the election, the best thing to do is to suspend the election to avoid breakdown of law and order. That's what the electoral act said. But the law now said, no, don't suspend. Please, take the election, take it to any part, take it to anywhere in the local government, even if it means taking it to the house of Abga chairman or Abga, just take it to anywhere. The result there. That is repugnant to common sense. And we're saying, we can't do that. Look at what the electoral act said. You or your own cannot propose to enact a law to the right from that. So at the end of the day, it's left for the court to decide whether we are right or whether we are wrong.
All right, then.
The section is, no, it has a feature of sections.
Hello, John.
So that's why I'm happy.
Hello.
We have found the opportunity to engage in advocacy. So
Hello.
people now know why Labour Party is saying, we are not participating in this election.
Hello, John.
Put your house in order. If you don't put your house in order, you don't comply with the requisite law as provided in the Electoral Act and the Constitution, we shall not be a party to acts of illegality.
Hello, John.
Yes.
I need to say thank you very much. John Okoli-Akrika is the Secretary of Labour Party in Anambra State. Thank you for being on Southeast News on Signature TV. And we'll keep...
Thank you so much. And I hope and pray that as circumstances and occasions may warrant, you keep calling us, you keep engaging us, so that we keep telling you what is happening. Not just for the interest of Labour Party, but for the interest of democracy and the generation of Nigerians.
We are here for the interest of democracy, not for any particular party. So
Thank you very much.
thank you very much, and I wish you the best of today.
Thank you.
Well, that's how far we can go on this edition of Southeast News. Tomorrow is another day. We have a bigger conversation then. Till then, Barik Mada was my name.
Leaders, and the right that you are enjoying when you are 18 years and above. It implies that you have a say in who governs you, from your ward to local government to state and to the national level. The right to protest, conversely, is a right to say, even though we have elected you, we are not comfortable with what you are doing. We need a change of attitude. We need a change of action. And that right to vote and that right to protest would appear to have the same significance. But political leaders are afraid of protests. They're not afraid of voting, but they're afraid of protests. If you voted for a man and he's not doing well, it is incumbent on citizens to say that's the only way they express, because they don't have a parliament. They're not in the National Assembly. So the only way they have is to say, yes, this is a placard. You're not doing well. Resign. Go away. So it's a fundamental right. But when citizens take that right beyond the realms of peaceful protests, when it snowballs into destruction, mayhem, as we are witnessing some parts of Nigeria today, it threatens democracy. Democracy is a beautiful thing when well practiced. But when you take it too far, then of course, national stability is challenged. And of course, national security is threatened. So this evening, I'm being joined by Friday Okechukwu, PhD. He's Associate Prof. and PG Coordinator, Faculty of Law, Godfrey University here in ENUGU. Prof, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
We'll be looking at the issue of protests, democracy, and of course, national security.
Okay.
Of course, in the past, since the 1st of August, Nigeria has witnessed an unprecedented, so to speak, protests. However, there seems to be a divide. The North will appear to be very, very obsessive with the protests. The South would appear, apart from Lagos, the South would appear to be relatively peaceful. The Southeast is actually sleeping. Prof, what's your analysis of all these? Today is the 6th. So 6 days counting.
Yeah.
Can you give us your best eye view of what has been?
Yeah, let me pick the gauntlet, from your intro. You already laid the foundation. Protest is a fundamental right. We are in citizens,
The high level or increase of unemployment is individuals' fault. Majority of the people blames it on the government. Because I look at it that majority of us went to school to study how to be employed and not to become employers. You understand what I'm saying now? So a situation whereby you are being programmed or being worked on in such a way that you believe that once you finish your education, there is a government job such as white collar not job awaiting you, then we are deceiving ourselves. But I am trying to tell us that if you went to the school to acquire knowledge and put the knowledge into work, it will benefit both you, the society where you are, and the entire nation.
The high level of unemployment in Nigeria is alarming. Like, it's mind-blowing. It keeps getting worse by the day. Like, people are getting unemployed on a daily basis. You see students graduating from school, like no work, no job. So I won't say it's anybody's fault. Individuals have to put in effort to mitigate it. Then government, it is their duty to make sure that there is a way that students or graduates should be employed. And I think the ways to mitigate it or to make it a bit easy for everybody is to encourage entrepreneurship. Encourage entrepreneurship is very, very important. It's very, very necessary for people to be equipped to have what to do, a kind of handwork, anything that will make someone to be engaged in order to earn money for him or herself.
A high rate of unemployment in Nigeria first is caused by we the Nigerians. And why? Because we already know that there are no jobs out there. So why then do we depend or lean on getting white-collar jobs when there are none? The federal government is not doing anything to help us and to, what do I say, to give us something meaningful. Let me just stop there, to give us something meaningful. When you go out there, outside the country, definitely there are jobs there where you be able to fetch money for yourself and fend for your family. But here, it is well.
High level of unemployment, obviously is on the leadership now. It's very, very obvious because in a country that everything, you know, the consumption rate is higher than the production rate, what do you expect? Obviously unemployment will be very high. So I guess one of the ways, and we all know it and the government knows it, is just that the guys who, you know, made the country this way are benefiting from it. So basically it's just to increase the productivity of the country. Look at places like Aba that produces, you know, the kind of, despite the, you know, financial instability they have, they can still produce such, you know, well-crafted work, creative work. For them to do that kind of thing, imagine if money is pumped into that area. You know, a lot of things can be done. For instance, Peter Obida, you know, his convoy is made of innocence, you know, he bought innocence cars, his convoy. It's because, you know, he's trying to increase the productivity of Nigerians. And I feel if we focus on that area, things can be done to, you know, make the country better.
Well, I believe the high level of unemployment is basically, let's say the government, because first off, the government isn't providing enough opportunities, both in learning opportunities and job opportunities for people. People actually go to school in this part of the world because we are very of creating that job opportunity and how it will actually, if they can actually succeed in the business or in whatever they're about to do. And if you look at the downside of things, it doesn't add up and they just give up and go back to the whole so-called unemployed youth and the population of individuals that are unemployed in the country. The unemployment rate is actually at the highest at this point. Even after going to school, after serving for the national country and all that, you still don't even have a chance to succeed or even get a chance to start from somewhere. People are actually sidelining you because they don't see any value in what you bring to the table, as they say. But then again, we look at how the whole economy is structured. It's only the rich that keeps getting richer while the poor keeps getting poorer. Nobody wants to help the other person to rise up to a particular position, and nobody is willing to actually, like, you know, give people the chance. Because I believe if everyone is given a chance, we can make things work in this country. But at this point, somebody is giving a chance and nobody cares to do anything meaningful. Everybody's just giving up, literally, and it's causing so much unemployment, so much chaos, so much poverty in the land. Nobody gives a hell about anything. If anything goes to chaos, it's fine. If anything goes well, it's fine. We're all just too relaxed about the whole situation and nothing is adding up.
future belongs to whoever can see possibilities before they become real. If you can see possibilities in things, and I saw a lot of possibilities, I could see what the Akwa Ibom need at the time. And thank God, at least 90% of the cases, I was right. The direction in which I took Akwa Ibom is the direction they're still following today. In spite of some of the obstacles that I met in the way, and I just decided, if I must give you an example. I decided that the modern world cannot do without electricity. And the things I wanted to bring to Akwa Ibom needed electricity. So I decided that I must give Akwa Ibom 24-hour constant power. It was a struggle. It was a real struggle because of the kind of federal, quote, I put that federal in quotes, arrangement that we have, where the center literally dictates everything that the states can do and cannot do. I was told I could not build an independent power plant. Why would I not be able to build an independent power plant? Because power is centralized. We centralize too many things, and that's where we are backward till today. I will say that over and over again. And that may be why you say I'm still relevant even in national politics, because we have not yet got back to the position. I say get back to, because we were there before. We started on that journey, then we was abruptly stopped and changed. We have not yet got back to the position where federating units can be reasonably, not reasonably, in fact, very independent, able to manage themselves, able to manage their resources, able to manage their own security, able to manage their future with whatever resources they have, and then sustain with whatever they contribute to the federal. We have to change the concept of this federation because it means people that want to develop cannot develop because the federal government does not always see the things that the way the states see them. The better example, or more even most is this power business. I wanted to build, we were consuming 40 megawatts of power. So I went to Lele Moke, who was the Minister for Power at the time, and said, I want to build 60 megawatts. He laughed at me and said, no, Your Excellency, you want to build a power plant for Akwa Ibom? Please make it a lot larger than that. I said, why? We're only consuming 40. He said, there's something called surplus demand. You're only consuming 40 because that's all that's available to you. That if you had a lot more than that, you will consume 2-3 times that much. So in the end, I took his advice. I built a power plant of 191 megawatt capacity. And the federal government looked at me and literally laughed because immediately I finished that, they brought a law to say if you generate, you cannot distribute. I'm convinced, as I speak to you, that if I was allowed to go ahead and distribute that power and boast that Akwa Ibom is the first state in this country to give 24-hour constant power to every corner of the state. Believe me, there will be electricity all over Nigeria now because every state will have tried to imitate it.
The fuel pump price, which is very high, is affecting the spending habits of citizens. It's making it very hard. If fuel subsidy is to be reintroduced, I think it will make spending habits of consumers to be less, and the unit price of commodities will reduce because the transportation costs.
Welcome to Global News on Signature Television. I am Charles Pius. In the headlines, WHO urges Nigeria to accelerate healthcare reforms. Governor Fubara approves 85,000 naira minimum wage for civil servants in Rivers. Governor's wife distributes federal government's palliatives to Abia PWDs, and Kenyan activists criticize Deputy President's appointment, citing protest deaths. Details in a moment. The World Health Organization, WHO, has called on the federal government to expedite healthcare reforms to meet Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) targets. WHO country representative to Nigeria, Dr. Walter Mulumbo, made this appeal in Abuja on Friday at the closing of a two-day training initiative for health journalists. The training, with the theme Empowering Journalists to Drive the Change in Narrative with Compelling Data-Driven Health Stories, aimed at equipping journalists with the skills to drive change through compelling storytelling. Mulumbo noted that only 17% of SDG healthcare targets were on track, emphasizing the need for swift action to achieve these goals. He stressed the importance of shifting from pilot projects to delivering large-scale quality healthcare solutions and fostering collaboration between the government and citizens. Mulumbo also highlighted Nigeria's ranking of 187th out of 191 countries in healthcare performance as unacceptable. Mulumbo urged journalists to collaborate with healthcare experts to ensure accurate information reached the public, as the media plays a pivotal role in promoting the SDGs. Mulumbo emphasized the importance of truthful and reliable information. The House of Representatives says it has created the website for public engagement on the bill for independent candidacy in the country. Investigative hearing on alleged oil thefts, pipeline vandalism, and its environmental effects on oil-producing states continue. Senate passes vote of confidence on Senate President's details from the National Assembly.
The House of Representatives has created a website to enhance public awareness and interaction on the independent candidacy bill. Addressing newsmen in Abuja, the spokesperson of the House, Akin Rotimi, said that the primary aim of the bill is to deepen political participation as much as possible. He said that the country had witnessed 7 electoral cycles since the commencement of the Fourth Republic and that it was important to improve the system as the nation looks forward to the 8th electoral cycle. Rotimi said because of the crucial nature of the bill and need for a robust input from stakeholders across boards, it has been recommitted to the Committee on Constitutional Review for more scrutiny. The website, he said, is www.independentcandidacybill.ng, where a lot of information, especially on what the bill is not, because of the misconceptions and technical details of the bill. Rotimi, who was a sponsor of the bill, recalled that the bill was first introduced in the 7th Assembly and through the 8th and 9th Assemblies did not enjoy full stakeholders' support. Still from the Green Chamber, the continued investigative hearing on oil theft, pipeline vandalism, and its environmental effects in oil-producing states revealed different perspectives from two companies, Ayeto and Nigeria Agip, now Owando. The session held by the House of Representatives Environment Committee focused on numerous petitions from host committees concerning the negative impact of these companies' operations. Both companies acknowledged the need for legislative intervention to curb the environmental and economic sabotage caused by oil theft and vandalism.
The records show that in all our areas of operation, we operate in 4 states of Bayelsa, Rivers, Delta, and Imo State. Our statistics show that about 90% of all our spill events are caused by third-party interferences on our facilities. But when you go into Bayelsa, where Olubobru is, our records show that about 80% of all oil theft-related spills in Bayelsa are within Southern Niger local government area, where Olubobru community is.
They argued that illegal connections and damage to installations were the main causes of environmental pollution, exacerbated by underwater currents spreading the spills.
There should be a time that we speak to our brothers. If we continue like this, we are talking about the host community trust. If you continue to finalize the pipelines, how do you have money in the host trust? Yes, some of the languages may be very harsh, but it's not take away the fact that our people are involved in these activities. So I think that saying that it should never, never may be also too harsh. So let it use the word mildly. The one I find funny is when he said appetite to steal.
The chief operation of Ayeto, Ewarezi Use, stressed the importance of maintaining good relations with host communities, but noted that vested interests often lead to conflict, which have previously impacted oil production.
99% of them have been found to be third-party infractions from mostly vandals and theft who have come to steal crude. Like I said, it's a very sorry and painful situation. No country, no producer, no operator sets up to want to be a badging operator. It is a Herculean task. It is extremely difficult. It's something that no operator really wants to get involved in. But what do you want to do when you cannot get your crude out? You are producing, but you will not see it. These are open records, open facts that can be found from all facets of security hierarchies, regulators in Nigeria.
However, committee members led by Chairman Rep. Julius Pondi took issue with Owando's sweeping accusations against the host communities. And in the Red Chamber, senators unanimously passed a vote of confidence on the leadership of the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. The assurances of loyalty to the leadership of Akpabio by the senators followed social media reports that some aggrieved senators from the North planned to impeach the Senate president. Raising a point of order on the floor of Thursday's plenary, a former leader of the Senate, Yahaya Abdullahi, drew the attention of his colleagues to a publication which claimed that northern senators were behind the impeachment plot against Akpabio. The senator claimed that such an allegation was a breach of his constitutional rights as a citizen and lawmaker representing Kebbi North, and that the allegation that northern senators were plotting Akpabio's removal has put a dent on his reputation and integrity.
A senior member of this chamber and also a senior member of the northern senators. And I can assure you there has been no attempt that I know of by any caucus or any group among the senators to bring this code or make any attempt to challenge the legitimacy of your election or to undermine the good work that we have been doing in this Senate.
The cross-section of the lawmakers passed a confidence vote on the entire leadership of the 10th Senate.
I say that I think it is important for some of us that are probably being seen as the frontliners to say, without consulting my friends, my colleagues from the North, that I move that will enforce a vote of confidence in both you, the Senate President, and the Deputy Senate President, and the entire leadership of the National Assembly in this regard. And I'm very positive that this is the way to go about it. Anybody who wants to create any problem, going out can create it on himself, but not on our behalf.
A lot has been said for these rumors that happened yesterday. Mr. President, I want to join the previous Senator Aminu Abbas, Adamawa Central, Adamawa State. I want to join my colleagues as a condemnation as moved by the single Senator Abdul Nuri that this Senate do vote a confidence vote in the leadership of the Senate and the entire leadership of the Senate under the Zugu Senator Godswill Akpabio, the common president of the 10th Senate.
In his remarks, Senator Akpabio expressed gratitude for the support from his colleagues and assured them of his intention to provide good leadership.
In a very humble way, I feel humbled, but I'm obligated to put the question. Those who support that this vote of confidence on the Senate leadership be carried, say aye. Those against, say nay. They are not here. The ayes have it. Let me thank my distinguished senators on behalf of my brothers, the Deputy Senate President, and the leadership, and assure you that the comradeship and the bond existing between us in the 10th Senate will continue.
Some online media platforms had speculated on Wednesday that the presidency had drafted a large number of operatives from the Department of State Services, DSS, to the National Assembly complex in Abuja to stop senators from performing their constitutional duty. Akpabio had denied the report, saying that the Senate remained united.
Meanwhile, the executive chairman, Courier and Logistics Management Institute, Professor Simon Emeje, said courier and logistics subsector could boost Nigeria's gross domestic products by 60% if fully tapped. Emeje said this at a news conference organized by the professional body to announce its upcoming CLMI International Conference and investiture on Friday in Lagos. The conference and investiture slated for November 14 will take place in Lagos. The CLMI boss said that tapping into the industry with assets worth over 15 trillion naira required regulatory excellence and innovation. Emeje, who expressed dissatisfaction that the full potential of the sector was yet to be tapped, urged the government to entrench regulations that would drive innovation, investment, and growth. According to him, an industry with such huge assets should have federal government's recognition. Speaking on the role of the CLMI, Emeje said that the institute was dedicated to supporting Nigeria's economic growth by bridging the gap between industry needs and government policies. He said that the institute had been recognized globally for its expertise with international partners seeking counsel. Emeje, however, said the courier and logistics industry in Nigeria took precedence. He noted that courier services played an important role in driving efficiency and meeting customers' demands. The 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says Nigeria must be intentional with its agricultural investments if it must conquer food insecurity. Obi stated this in a statement issued by the spokesperson Ibrahim Umar on Friday in Abuja against the backdrop of a report on food security released by the World Bank. Excuse me. The former Anambra governor likened Nigerians' worsening food insecurity crisis to war-torn countries like Yemen, stating that there was a significant rise in the number of people facing acute food shortages and hunger epidemic. Obi said he had maintained over the years that moving the country from consumption to production remains the surest way of combating food insecurity and pulling the nation out of the present food crisis, and that the greatest assets of the nation remain the vast uncultivated lands in the north and the huge demographics. He expressed regrets that a state like Niger, which is twice bigger in landmass than the Netherlands, could neither feed itself nor the nation when the Netherlands exports over $100 billion worth of agro-products annually. This, he said, could be achieved by combating insecurity, which had kept farmers away from the farms, and adopting modern ways of mechanized farming. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says it has deposited 30 billion naira in the Bank of Industry to grow small and medium enterprises in the 9 states in the region. The managing director of the NDDC, Chief Samuel Obuku, said this on Friday in Akure during the sensitization on the establishment of the Niger Delta Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Trade, Mines and Agriculture. Obuku, represented by the Ondo State's representatives in the NDDC, Otito Atikase, said that the money was the Commission's counterpart funds for disbursements to entrepreneurs, nano and other beneficiaries to grow their respective enterprises. He said that the initiative would give loans to beneficiaries who could not get loan from the conventional financial institutions. The NDDC boss also said that the gesture was born out of the sincere desire to find a lasting solution to the challenges plaguing businesses in the Niger Delta region. He said that the initiative would help to ensure that the development was brought to the people of the region through genuine processes of economically empowering them. Obuku further said that the Commission was committed to working closely with NDC-CTIMA to design a pathway of prosperity for the people that would complement ongoing projects, HOPE and IFAD. Also speaking, the Executive Director of Projects in the NDDC, Mr. Victor Atai, said that the event was to raise awareness about the establishment of the NDC-CTIMA and also explore the vast opportunities it represented across various economic sectors. FBN Holdings PLC has appointed Adebowale Oyedeji as its Group Managing Director, GMD, effective November 13th. Adewale Arogundade, Company Secretary of the Holdings, confirmed this in a notification sent to Nigerian Exchange Limited on Friday in Lagos. Arogundade said that the appointment was subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria and ratification of the firm's shareholders at the annual general meeting of the company. He added that Oyedeji, a seasoned professional, would replace Nnamdi Okonkwo, who would retire after completing his term. Oyedeji holds a Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Economics from the University of Ibadan and a Master of Science in Financial Economics from the University of London. He's also a Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and an alumnus of Harvard Business School's Advanced Management Program. The new GMD has over 30 years of experience in banking, spanning the corporate banking, treasury, commercial banking, and general management. Group Chairman Femi Otedola welcomed Oyedeji and expressed confidence that he would build on the 130-year-old franchise solid foundation and sustain its leadership position. The federal government says there is no going back on the removal of fuel subsidy in the country. The Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, restates that the government stand during the presentation of the Nigeria Development Updates by the World Bank in Abuja. Edun reveals that the subsidy on fuel and foreign exchange had drained the country's economy, costing over 10 trillion naira, which amounts to 5% of Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP. The minister announced a new government plan aimed at addressing unemployment with a focus on housing finance, saying that the government expects the approach to boost construction activities and generate significant job creation. Earlier, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Kadoso, explained the rationale behind the recent 0.5% interest rate hike, which stood at 26.75%. According to him, the policies and interventions to cushion the Naira crisis and inflation are based on empirical data and necessary steps. But Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed, while speaking at the event, condemned the policies but put forward by the federal government, which he emphasized were causing a lot of hardship for Nigerians. Meanwhile, the Minister of the Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anita, says the inauguration of the Nigerian Exports Promotion Council, NEPC, Export Skills Acquisition Center, will build the capacity of youth and women. The minister made this known at the inauguration of the Export Skill Acquisition Center and Fashion Innovative Hub for Women and Youths on Friday in Lagos. The NEPC, in collaboration with ENUGU Nigeria Limited, established the ESAC to facilitate skill development in innovative bag making and related accessories. She commended the NEPC for establishing the ESAC, describing it as a crucial step aligned with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda aimed at economic growth, job creation, and poverty alleviation. She said that given the opportunities offered by the African Continental Free Trades Area, AFCFTA, there was no better time to kickstart the project than now. Uzoko Anita said that reports had disclosed that the African fashion industry was estimated to worth $31 billion, while the global fashion industry stood at $2.5 trillion. She acknowledged the challenges faced by African fashion designers compared to their Western counterparts, stating that the establishment of the center aims to tackle these fundamental issues, hindering export growth and economic diversification. The minister said that the Skill Acquisition Center would offer the specialized training programs covering a range of exports-related skills, including product development, quality control, and international trades regulations. Meanwhile, the Rivers State government has joined Lagos State government to approve a minimum wage of 85,000 naira for civil servants in the state. This was disclosed by the head of service of the state, Dr. George Nweke, who announced that the approval was granted by Governor Siminalayi Fubara during a closed-door meeting with the labor leaders and senior government officials Friday, 18th October, at the government house. Nweke confirmed that the implementation of the new minimum wage will take effect immediately.
A meeting was held between the labor leaders in Rivers State and the governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Sir Siminalayi Fubara, indeed a Grand Service Star of Rivers State. And top government officials were in that meeting, the SSG, myself, the head of service, the Commissioner of Information, and many others. The sole agenda of that meeting was to discuss how to take off the new minimum wage, which was pronounced as 70,000 by the negotiations at the federal level. But our governor was very magnanimous enough to raise the bar beyond what our minds could even conceive of. He granted a minimum wage of 85,000 naira to Rivers workers. And that is what our resolution was by the time we left the place. The implementation is with immediate effect, and the committee has been set up. The SSG is heading, the labor leaders and my humble self are going to the drawing board immediately to work out the details for immediate takeoff of the scheme.
On their part, the chairman of the joint negotiation team, Chukwu Emecheta, praised Governor Fubara for meeting the expectation of Rivers State workers. He expressed appreciation for the governor's commitments to the workforce. Also speaking, the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress in Rivers State, Alex Agwangwo, noted that the minimum wage will greatly alleviate the economic hardships faced by workers in the state.
Since after the negotiation by the federal government of Nigeria, we have not had the privilege of sitting with our governor to discuss on the way forward. We had the privilege of sitting with him this afternoon. We were not equally in doubt of the capacity of the governor that we are going to meet. And so our expectation, we will not say we are surprised. We got there. He did not stress us. He has feelings for his people. He understands what it takes to, be paid that meager sum. And so he decided today that he's going to go out of his way against all that the state is facing to pay minimum wage of 85,000 naira, which supersedes what the federal government of Nigeria is paying as a national minimum wage. And what can we do as a people? What we do, when you do good, we say you have done good. When you have done bad, we say you have done bad. Today, we are happy that our expectation for our governor, he's living up to his expectation, up to his promises. He said he will not leave Rivers State people in pains. He will not impoverish us. And he has demonstrated it this afternoon.
I want to say that this supersedes every other state, in the sense that the Lagos State did 85,000 too. But if you consider the IGR of Lagos and Rivers State, it's not the same. So for Rivers State to come up with this amount, that's to say we're on top of our game. And we want to also tell the governor that with this gesture, the workers of Rivers State will continually support him, stand by him, because they are proving to us once again that he remains the #1 friendly Labour governor in this country. And NLC, TUC, Joint Council, everybody, organized labor, will stand by him. Come rain, come shine, workers will stand by him. Yeah, it will cushion economic effect regards to the current hardship that the people are facing. It will go.
Still to come, Lagos State Government flags off supplemental immunization activities to safeguard residents' health. Anambra community leaders kidnapped 2 weeks ago regains freedom. Details in a moment. Welcome back. The wife of Abia Governor Priscilla Oti on Friday distributed 500 bags of 25 kg rice and other food items to persons with disabilities in the state. In a speech during the exercise in Umuahia, Oti said that the initiative was meant to cushion the impact of the current economic challenges faced by PWDs. The items were part of the federal government-sponsored palliative materials to the states and the federation to alleviate the impact of the economic hardship. Oti said that the prevailing economic hardship has denied many families the opportunity to enjoy standard living conditions. According to her, the federal government is working with relevant stakeholders in the food value chains and the challenges of high cost of food. She commended the federal government for extending the gesture to Abia. Oti said that the state government was also determined to continue to prioritize the affairs of PWDs because the gains derived from disability inclusion contribute to the development of society. The Commissioner for Poverty Alleviation and Special on Social Protection, Blessing Felix, described the palliative materials as a symbol of government's recognition of the challenges facing PWDs in their daily life. Felix also thanks the federal government for its continued commitment to the cause of PWDs in the country. Meanwhile, the ENUGU State Governor Peter Amba has approved the digitalization of all primary healthcare centers in the state. The Executive Secretary of the ENUGU State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Ifeanyiwa Aniosheku, disclosed this when she led a team from the World Health Organization, WHO, on a facility tour of the newly constructed Type 2 primary healthcare centers in the state. The Executive Secretary said the essence of the digitalization was to ensure quality service delivery and to obtain accurate data, which she said was now much needed in the health sector. She said that the Mba-led administration embarked on the construction of 260 Type 2 healthcare facilities across the 260 political wards to bring healthcare delivery closer to the rural people. The zonal coordinator of WHO in the southeast, Dr. Chukwumunya Ibweku, commended Mba for his bold reforms in the health sector, especially the building and equipping of 260 level 2 PHCs that met standard across 260 wards of Enugu. He reiterated the investments in PHC's revitalization and strengthening of a functional primary healthcare system was mostly a most sustainable pathway towards achieving health security and universal health coverage for Enugu people. The wife of Lagos State Governor Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu has urged parents to vaccinate their children against preventable childhood diseases to safeguard their health and future. Sanwo-Olu gave the charge at the flag-off ceremony of the Lagos State supplemental immunization activities held at the Ifako Ijaya local government on Friday. The immunization, which will commence in all 57 local government development agencies of the state on October 19th, is in partnership with the United Nations Children's Funds, UNICEF. 85% of Lagos residents from 9 months to 44 years is projected to receive yellow fever vaccine booster doses. There will also be a measles vaccine for children from 9 months to 18 months. Others are HPV vaccines against cervical cancer for females aged 9 years from 14 years or to 14 years, and polio vaccine, among other routine immunization. Sanwo-Olu, represented by the wife of the Senior Special Advisor on Mineral Resources to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, appeals to parents and other adults to take advantage of the SIA to break the circle of preventable diseases. Sanwo-Olu said that the vaccination would significantly reduce mortality rates, which align with the state government's development plan for 2050. She praised UNICEF, World Health Organization, and others for working with the state government to curtail the outbreak of vaccine-preventable diseases. Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in Kogi, Bertrand Onoha, has advised politicians, their supporters and voters to ensure peace during Saturday's local government council elections in the state. Onoha gave the advice in an interview with newsmen in Lokoja on Friday. The CP, who spoke through SP Williams Ovie Aya, the Command's Police Public Relations Officer, PPPRO, said that the police personnel had been deployed across the 21 local government areas to ensure hitch-free elections. The chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission, Kosiek Maman Ndaire, has also assured travelers passing through Kogi of unrestricted movement. Ndaire said that the restriction order was for residents, whom he advised to be at the polling units as early as 8 a.m. to exercise their franchise. He said that polls would close at 3 p.m. while all those on the queue would be allowed to vote. The Commission chairman also appeals to the electorates to ensure they conducted themselves in peaceful and orderly manner for the success of the exercise. Similarly, the Kaduna State government has announced restriction of movement ahead of the chairmanship and consulship elections slated in the state for Saturday, October 19th. The Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, who made this known in Kaduna on Friday, said the restriction between 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. is to ensure peaceful and orderly conduct of the chairmanship and consulship elections into the 23 local government councils and 255 wards. Aruwan said vehicular movement as well as commercial and other related activities which may constitute impediments to law and order are to cease within the period of the restriction, and that only persons performing essential duties are exempted from the restriction. He therefore advised citizens to refrain from actions that could disrupt public peace or affect smooth conduct of the elections, as security agencies have been deployed to ensure enforcement and compliance. Two operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS, have dragged the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SARA, before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory for allegedly making false allegations against them. They are equally seeking a public apology and demanding the sum of 5 billion naira as damages suffered as a result of the SARAP's alleged false publication. In a suit filed on October 17th by their team of lawyers led by Akinlolu Kehinde, a senior advocate of Nigeria, the operatives allege that SARAP had in a post on its X handle brought them that the DSS to ridicule them when it accused them of invading and interrogating some staff members at the Abuja office. According to Sarah John and Gabriel Ogunleye, first and second claimants, the DSS had on September 9, 2024, directed them to SARAP's office to invite the new leadership of the organization for a familiarization meeting, which they did, and that shortly after they left the office. SARAP posted on X that DSS officers are unlawfully occupying the SARAP office in Abuja. The tweets and subsequent statements by SARAP, which went viral on social media, was widely circulated and broadcast in major media outlets in the country. They claimed attracted wide condemnation from the public, including a senior lawyer, Femi Falana, and further attracted condemnation on the two claimants who had visited SARAP's office on that September 9th. They further claimed that SARAP's statements caused him to their reputation because the staff and management of the DSS have formed the opinion that the claimants did not follow orders and carried out an unsanctioned operation. Meanwhile, troops of the 6th Brigade of the Nigerian Army have again apprehended 3 individuals suspected of collaborating with terrorist elements in Taraba State. A statement made available to journalists in Jalingo in the early hours of Friday by the acting spokesperson of the brigade, Captain Oni Olubodonde, said the operation was launched after reports of bandit activity in the Kona mountain range, which spans Jalingo and Lao local government areas. The troops moved swiftly, arresting 3 suspects identified as Ahijo Suleiman, Abdurrahman Isa, and Aisha Mohammed, wife of Ahijo Suleiman, who revealed that their residence was used to hide weapons after terrorist operations. It said the 3 suspects were at the time of this report in custody and reaffirmed the commitment of the Army to protecting lives, property, and preserving the nation's territorial integrity. Meanwhile, the President General of the Umunze Progressive Union, Ezekiel Ihazo, and the prominent chieftain of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Ikechukwu Okoli, who were abducted in Umunze, Anambra State 2 weeks ago, have regained freedom. The kidnap of the two men, the residents of the Abga chieftain in Lomu village in Umunze, was said to have sent shockwaves and fear to the community. However, jubilation erupted in the community when the news broke out that the release of the community leaders by their abductors. A source told newsmen that the men returned Thursday night after staying over 2 weeks in the den of the abductors before their release, but did not reveal whether the families of the abductors paid any ransom before they were released. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has mourned the late President General for Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, describing him as a colossus of many parts. In a tribute he signed on Friday, Tinubu recalled Iwuanyanwu's exploits in sports and business and his ingenuity and resourcefulness in politics and philanthropy. The late President General for Ohanaeze Ndigbo, he noted, served the nation in many official capacities and was the founding chairman of the Raw Materials and Research Development Council and chairman of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, as well as the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, Nigerian National Lottery, and chairman of the National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, among several other positions. The late elder statesman, according to him, lived a life of service and served his people and the nation with his wealth, providing scholarships to indigent students, building schools and hospitals, and supporting many charitable causes. Tinubu commiserates with the Iwuanyanwu family, the governments, the people of Imo State, and the Ndigbo as a whole, as the burial rites of Chief Iwuanyanwu begin in a few days. Chief Iwuanyanwu died on July 25th, 2024, at age 81. The remains of Nze Felix Ugu Ozoalo have been laid to rest at his country home, Umwezani Amekengwo, in Udi local government area of Enugu State. Nze Felix Ugu Ozoalo, who died at the age of 102 years, was, until his death, the oldest man in Umwezani community, Amekengwo. Correspondent Chidemere Mikebunam witnessed the burial of the late patriarch and now reports.
The funeral service and celebration of life of Elder Felix Ugu Ozoalo, the oldest man in Umwezani community, Amekenwu, witnessed the gathering of different communities in Udi local government area, Enugu State. After the funeral mass, a visiting priest from Onitsha, Reverend Father Chimobi Emefu, said that Elder Ugu Ozoalo lived a good life, which is why he lived long. He prayed for the family he left behind to remain peaceful and united. The first son of the late patriarch, Declan Ugu, said his reign as the now head of the family will not be different from the peaceful and all-inclusive leadership of his late father. He expressed gratitude to all who came to celebrate with the family.
My father is a brave man, an intelligent man, a peacemaking man, and also one of the members of the cabinet of Igwe in the community. He is somebody that loves charity. He is somebody that likes to associate with people. He is somebody that likes humanity. He is somebody that is very cheerful. He likes to play with people around. Every people knows him very well. He chats with everybody. If you love the people community, both small, both big, then that old and rich.
Family members eulogized Nze Ugu Ozoalo, remembering his kindness, generosity, and dedication to his community.
As all of us are coming here to celebrate, that as we are going, that in short, long life will just go with everybody, you know, and we pray that we live, and we get tired as my father-in-law. He's a very good man, and that's why God bless him with long life.
Father is a great person. He's a great person. He's a wonderful man. His career, I cannot say this is the one, this is 2 or 3. In his career, I don't know where to mention.
Relatives, friends, community members, and well-wishers also paid their tributes to the dead.
As we know him, he lived a good life. He lived a trusted life. To have lived to 102 years, you know what it means. It is a gift from God. It is only people of integrity, people who are known for standing for what is good, that can live that far.
He was an inspiration to everybody that came to him. And for us who are in-laws, we always treated like the big in-laws that we are.
My
my prayers is that they should continue from where their departed father stopped. If the man had not been good, they couldn't have been as united as they are now. But because of the nature of the man, he succeeded in bringing them together. Let them improve on it.
The condolence visit was a show of solidarity and support from in-laws, relatives, and friends. The deceased was laid to rest at Diklan Ugu's compound in Umwezani, Amekengu. Late Nze Felix Ugu Ozalo was a respected community leader and devoted family man. His legacy will be cherished by those who knew him. Chinemerem Ikebunam, Signature TV News.
Still to come, Russia wants lasting peace in Ukraine, Putin says. Italy's Prime Minister Meloni in Beirut calls for strengthening of UNIFIL. These and more after the break. Not too hot. Welcome back. You're watching Global News with Charles. Kenyan activists criticized President William Ruto's nomination of Kithure Kindiki as deputy president on Friday, citing his role as interior minister during deadly protests earlier this year. Ruto named Kindiki to replace Rigathi Gachagua, who was impeached by the state or Senate on Thursday. However, a court order has temporarily blocked Kindiki's appointment until October 24th, when judges will hear a case challenging Gachagua's removal. Human rights activists in Nairobi expressed dismay over Kindiki's nomination, linking him to the deaths of over 60 people during the demonstrations against tax hikes and the cost of living in July and August. They planted trees to honor these or those killed and called for accountability.
Kindure to be our new deputy president is a sad moment for our country. Today, a lot of us are wearing black because we are mourning, because at the time during the protest he was CS Interior. We have over 61 people who lost their lives and we still have no accountability. We don't know the rogue police who shot them. There's no case, there's no compensation in terms of victims' families. So for us it's not a good day, it's not a good choice. It basically shows a government that doesn't stand up for accountability, and we will continue to see that in the remainder of their term.
I think had those demonstrations not happened, I doubt if there would have been this effort to remove the deputy president, at least now. Whether the president would have again chosen him to be his running mate in 3 years, that's another issue. But I think, yes, the Gen Z protests, the aftermath of that series of demonstrations and the violence meted out upon them by the police and so on, definitely put a lot of pressure on the president. So it wasn't a surprising time for this to happen, if it was going to happen at all.
Some residents of Nairobi's Mathare neighborhoods also rejected Kindiki's appointment, connecting him to controversial housing demolitions along riverbanks, which they said caused significant distress in affected communities. Kenyan analysts suggested that the protests and their violence aftermath likely contributed to Gachagua's impeachment and Kindiki's subsequent nomination. Gachagua, who helped Ruto secure votes in central Kenya during the 2022 election, had recently spoken of being sidelined amidst reports of a rift with the president. Boarding the presidential plane Air Force One as scheduled late on Friday afternoon. During his trip to the German capital, he held closed-door talks with allied German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to discuss matters ranging from Ukraine to the expanding conflict in the Middle East. Before the bilateral meeting, Biden spoke to reporters and urged the West to sustain its support for Ukraine against Russia's full-scale invasion as Kyiv faces a bleak winter and a looming U.S. presidential election raises worries about the strength of Washington's own resolve. Biden's trip came just 2.5 weeks before the U.S. presidential votes, where former President Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, is seeking re-election in a dead heat race against Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate. Trump has signaled he would be more reluctant than Biden to continue to support Ukraine, which could deprive Kyiv of its biggest military and financial backer. He has also indicated that U.S. aid to allies in the NATO Western Military Alliance would come with conditions attached. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron joined Biden and Scholz on Friday afternoon for talks focused largely on how to end the fighting in Ukraine as Russian forces advance in the east. Earlier on Friday, Biden met Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who awarded him Germany's highest order of merit, the Grand Cross of the Order of the Merit given for special achievements. That Biden was paying what could be his last visit to Europe as president to Berlin is seen by many as testaments to the close working relationship he has with Scholz. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Friday reiterated calls for ceasefire in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages, as well as reinforcing Western support for Ukraine in its war against Russia.
And now we must make the most of this moment. What is needed now is a ceasefire in Gaza, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, immediate access for humanitarian aid, and a return to the path towards the two-state solution as the only way to deliver long-term peace and security. The dire humanitarian situation cannot continue. And I say once again to Israel, the world will not tolerate any more excuses on humanitarian assistance. Civilians in northern Gaza need food now. The UK strongly supports UNRWA in the vital work it does in Gaza across the OPTs and the region. UNRWA must be allowed to continue its life-saving support. Building on the conversation I had with President Zelensky at Downing Street last week, we remain united in our support for Ukraine. We have always said that it is for the Ukrainian people to decide their own future. So we're clear, together with President Zelensky, that the only acceptable outcome is a sovereign Ukraine and a just peace with Ukraine to deliver.
Starmer's comments came after he met French President Macron, U.S. President Joe Biden, and German Chancellor Scholz on Friday afternoon for talks in the German capital focused largely on the Middle East and Russian aggression in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that he had asked the Defense Ministry to work on proposals for possible weapons exports. A possible to think of an export ban imposed during the war against Russia would be a dramatic change in government policies as Ukraine defends itself against a much larger and better equipped enemy. Zelensky told Ukrainian TV that the exports would be possible only to Ukraine's allies in the Ramstein group, which coordinates military support for Kyiv. Ukraine has transformed its weapon production industry since Russia's invasion in February 2022, quickly ramping up production of drones in particular and all other weapons. Officials have said that Ukraine tripled its overall domestic weapons production in 2023 and then doubles that volume again in just the first 8 months of this year. Zelensky said on Friday he expected a White House team to visit Ukraine soon with feedback on the victory plan presented to Western leaders earlier. He said in an interview with Ukrainian interest, the Kremlin leader was speaking to reporters ahead of a summit of the BRICS countries next week hosted by Russia in the city of Kazan. Putin is keen to build up BRICS, which has expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa as a powerful counterweight to the West in global politics and trade. Thousands of protesters, mainly Houthi supporters, rallied in Yemen's capital Sana'a on Friday to commemorate the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was killed during an operation by Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip on Wednesday. The rally saw demonstrators chanting slogans and holding posters of Sinwar, while large billboard screens displayed his image. Protesters, including children, were seen holding rifles, while others waved Palestinian and Lebanese flags. United Nations Humanitarian Office accused Israel on Friday of using warlike tactics against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, citing killings by soldiers and attacks on Palestinian olive groves by Israeli settlers. The OCHA report said around 600 million olive trees have been burnt, vandalized or stolen by settlers since the start of the harvest. It included a picture of a Palestinian man standing next to an olive tree stump with its branches sawn off. An eyewitness video also shared by OCHA on social media showed several cut and damaged olive trees lying in a field said to be in Qasra, West Bank. Israeli military said that, as with every year, it was working to secure the area to let people get on with the harvest. The harvest season was planned and coordinated with all relevant parties, and IDF forces are providing security in the designated areas, it added. Rockets fired towards Israel were visible from Lebanon's small town of Majaoun on Friday. Lebanese group Hezbollah early on Friday announced a transition to a new and escalating phase in the confrontation with Israel. Earlier in the day, Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni agreed that a diplomatic solution must be precedence over violence. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni met with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabil Berri in Beirut on Friday. The meeting took place after Meloni held a news conference with Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati, where they agreed that a diplomatic solution must take precedence over violence. Meloni called for the strengthening of the UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon, known as UNIFIL, during the news conference. The UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon said on Friday it had come under several deliberate attacks by several forces in recent days, and efforts to help civilians in the villages in the war zone were being hampered by Israeli shelling. The UN mission, known as UNIFIL, is stationed in southern Lebanon to monitor hostilities along the demarcation line with Israel, an area that has seen fierce clashes this month between Israeli troops and Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters.
This is why I repeat that I consider targeting UNIFIL unacceptable, and I ask once again that all parties strive to ensure that all times the safety of each of these soldiers is guaranteed. This is also why I'm convinced that UNIFIL must be strengthened. Only by strengthening UNIFIL while maintaining its impartiality, we will be able to turn the page. I discussed all these topics with Prime Minister Mikati, and I agree with him on the need for a full and actual implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. This also means that south of the river Litani, there must be no other military presence than that of UNIFIL and the LAF.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni called on Friday for the strengthening of the UN peacekeeping mission into Lebanon, known as UNIFIL, during a visit in Beirut. Only by strengthening UNIFIL while maintaining its impartiality, we will be able to turn the page, Meloni said during a joint news conference with Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati. Meanwhile, French Prime Minister Michel Barnier and Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Antonio Tajani pledged on Friday to bolster the two countries' cooperation against illegal immigration. France and Italy will, among other steps, create a joint police team to investigate migrant trafficking, Barnier told reporters in Menton at the border with Italy. There have been tensions and much criticism between France and Italy, both European Union members, over the past years over the politically sensitive issue of immigration. But at a time when the two are among countries pushing the European Union to toughen its stance on immigration, and with a new government in place in France, they pledged to turn the page. Speaking to reporters on the Italian side of the border, Tajani said the two countries had identical views on immigration, including the need to work together and exchange best practices. France's new minority government of Conservative Prime Minister Barnier which depends on the far-right's National Rally to Survive, has cited the fight against illegal immigration as one of its top priorities, and Bania is keen to work with the European leaders on this issue, or whatever their political colors French government officials say. Meanwhile, a Rome court on Friday rejected orders to detain a group of migrants in a reception facility in Albania and said they had a right to be brought to Italy, dealing a blow to Meloni's plan to divert asylum seekers abroad. Bania did not comment on the court's decision, but said Italy's deal with Albania was likely not something that could be implemented in France, where the context was different. And that's the news this hour. I'm Charles Pies. Thanks for watching. In another 5 minutes, the new day begins with Chi and company. Stay with us.